Here we go.
I got a new image I'm gonna send you. Oh, yeah. It said, "Hey, you're recording. Are you comfortable with that?" And I just went no and just left that meeting. Just left. That was totally my fault. I can't blame technology. I can't say what does this say about society. It's just on me. But you know what I can say?
Tell me.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Brandon.
Start that time. So here's the thing. I was listening to podcast that has brought up the existence of the Yonko LLC twice. Night Clerk Radio. I was listening to that today, and they have a very interesting episode about Heart of Space. Heart of Space. Do you know what Heart of Space is?
Yes, it's the kind of, I guess, kind of new age music show.
New age,
Yeah,
sort of long running ambient music show on the radio. So they talked about that. They did a great job talking about that. So we're not actually going to talk about that. But what I want to talk about, which I think is kind of a bummer that has happened with art, is we've lost. It is much more rare now that a lot of our art takes place at a certain time and in a certain area because we carry phones with us, and because of streaming, the act of the act of choosing to engage to art, while the barrier is so low, that's a good thing. It also is kind of sort of a bummer that if you wanted to listen to ambient music, you would find it on a radio, and it would be late at night, and you would, interface, and the way you would interface with it would be deliberately and fully. And it is so like I think that there is a level of we lost something, and it's hard that we lost something, because what we have is lovely. It's great. I have Spotify. It's great to have Spotify. It's great to have so many songs, and there's a lot of downsides to it. One of the things I think we can really talk about that we really kind of did lose is our ability to find things in a more delicate way than the algorithm says they like it, which is probably still good. And our ability to be in a certain place to experience a piece of art. That is something that I think is underappreciated, and I think is underrepresented right now in the current art scene. I think there are a lot of good things. I'm not saying we necessarily need to change, but I know when we did Yonko, one of the things that we thought about a lot, or I thought about a lot, I think you agreed with me, is we would put up stickers, and we've had some responses from it, which are always really wonderful. And the stickers would sort of be not random, but intriguing strangeness. And then you would scan it, and you would get taken to a place. And I always had this vision of people just being out in the world, scanning it, and then suddenly being taken to a place of art. That was always such an important part of the process, and it still is. We still do it. We're not quite as aggressive anymore because I'm a little bit older and don't want to get yelled at like that anymore. But it is, and there's still visual art, and there's still art you go to in galleries, but the casualness of and the act of everyone doing something at the same time, I think, is a little bit lost. And that perhaps means nothing. Perhaps it is a nothing thing, but it does feel like it's a bit of a shame. You can't help but feel that the act of watching a sunset or sunrise, because of when it came on a Sunday on WXPN playing ambient music, that's not hard. That's like the End of Stars, I think it is. It's similar. Is a little bit gone now. And I say one of the things that we can do every once in a while is listen to radio and find things that are more communal. I think we have lost a little bit of the communal art area, And I think that the air of communal art has become so rarefied that it is not as interesting to me anymore. Everyone used to watch
Yeah.
Cheers at pretty much the same time, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, something to be said about that. And whenever we, talk about, whenever, at least whenever I think about these subjects or things like that, there's always has to be like a, um, there, in one sense, you look at it through the lens of nostalgia, which
Mm-hmm.
is, and I think that's where the beauty that we're talking about kind of comes from, because there was this idea, and we sort of have these memories of certain things that happen to us, um like in this case, like listening to a radio show at
Mm-hmm.
these odd hours and hearing this gorgeous, beautiful music. And it's funny because I it was either when you brought it up a few weeks ago, or I think I may have heard it on the um that podcast as well. And I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about it for years,
Mm-hmm.
because, but as soon as I did, like all those memories came back, and just
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh God, yeah, that thing's still around. That's amazing. And I thought about when I was young, kind of listening to it and being really enthralled by it, just like you were. And it's so that sort of nostalgia like kind of comes through. The challenge, I think, is like, okay, how much how much of it is nostalgia, how much of it is actually a good thing, how much of it would be a good thing now, and and ultimately, like, does it really matter, because what is kind of cool, is that there are opportunities for that if you want it. There's still record stores,
Mm-hmm.
there people still collect records, and records have become a really big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even though really, on in one sense, and I'm not saying I believe this, but in one sense, like, records are really obsolete. You don't really, we've got Spotify and all that stuff, but I'm not saying I believe that, but in one sense they are.
Yeah,
Um,
but
so
there's something in the finiteness of it as
yeah.
well. Like I know there's collectability. I've collected records before it was cool. I've collected records for, I don't want to say before it was cool, but I have collected it for 12 years now. So
Mhm.
like actually might be longer, might be up to 20 at this point. So I've collected it, and they're great. They're great things to hold. The
Mhm.
physical media, they are fragile. They touch. They're interesting. Each one, they can be different in interesting ways. I love them. They're spectacular. They're very interesting. But I think one of the things is the finiteness is probably something that is something that can be
Mhm.
missed. You know,
Yeah.
I'm interested in the lo-fi radio stuff that has sort of come and become more corporate, which
Mhm.
everything that's popular that will happen to. I don't love it, but that's what it is. But I'm interested in the live feeds that people got so into for these long live feeds. And I wonder if it's about the live feedness for me was very important and interesting, knowing that I'm sharing a thing together and we are able to sort of duplicate that with these live
Mhm.
feed radio shows that are
Mhm.
going on. And like we're all sort of we're all around the world, but we're connected by the single video is
Yeah.
very powerful. And it's part of why YouTube has a premiere system, I would say,
Mhm.
trying to sort of fake that funk. And I wonder, it's easy. I'm not dismissing what you said. Nostalgia is certainly part of it, but I wonder if there is more to the video rental store, the record store. I wonder if there is more to that space than
Mhm.
just nostalgia. I wonder because it's easy to go, okay, well, you were young and you liked it because you were young. What else is interesting about that space? And I think perhaps one of the things is it's such an abundance of sounds that are potential sounds.
Mhm.
And I think there's a beauty to all these potential sounds or sites when it comes to video stores that doesn't seem to be there while streaming. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I know big fan our future sponsor Pluto TV, their
Mhm.
ability to do live television um, is something I speak highly of really regularly. Or live TV, like they do news.
Yeah.
But TV that is sort of a channel that is moving. But I think that abundance doesn't feel. I don't. And I'm only speaking for myself. Do not feel that abundance of potential when it comes to streaming stuff. And perhaps it's that the algorithm is too good, and we want to break away from stuff knowing us so well. And we want to be surprised and disappointed a little bit more often than, it's one thing to be like, okay, you like horror movies. Here's an algorithm says you like horror movies. It's another thing to be in a physical space and
Yeah.
look at things and go, what is speaking to me at this moment? And to read the backs and sort of that artistry is sort of fascinating to me.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely some positive, things that kind of go along with it. I think it's and you could also look at it though, like what has that experience been replaced by a different kind of experience?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, definitely like because in the same way, it's it well, yeah, I've got kind of two examples here. So,
I love it. Do it.
we've okay, so like okay, we've got Blockbuster that,
Mm-hmm.
Was, even before Netflix, the streaming service, we had Netflix, the DVD by mail service,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's actually, I think a certain element of nostalgia now for the mail service, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's still kind of a waiting period. You had to like go through the queue, and like just recently Netflix, the mail service, just mailed their last DVD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now that service is completely gone. And so, in between the Blockbuster and the streaming service, you had this little thing. And like for a period of time, like there's a certain amount of nostalgia there. It's like, okay, like you put your name on the queue for a movie, and you've
Mm-hmm.
got to wait for it a few weeks sometimes, until
Mm-hmm.
it gets there. And so that experience, now has nostalgia. And there's this possibly this streaming service, may uh there may be something else that replaces it, and there'll be nostalgia for Netflix, and we'll be making jokes about like, whatever it is,
I
about
do
Netflix.
think it is interesting to be, and I'm not being negative about this, but I
Mhm.
do think it is interesting. I'm just setting up my I gotta get I gotta get going soon. I gotta
Yeah.
get like run as soon as I can because I gotta go to Middletown. Um, it is interesting to have to be like so warm towards what was a heartless corporation that
Yeah.
closed out a bunch of mom and pop shops.
Mhm.
And like we're like, oh, I remember Blockbuster. And part of me is like, yeah, I remember Blockbuster, but like I also remember like the weird
Mhm.
video rental store in like I will always go for
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
handmade human stuff over the Blockbuster. But
Yeah.
I do, and I guess there also is something to be said for the finite of uh be going to a store and going, well, do you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And they go, well, that's actually been rented out.
Yeah.
And that is sort of an interesting thing. And
Mhm.
that's we should all what I'm trying to say, I think I'm really trying to get to is everyone should get a library card and you
Mhm.
should go to the library. You should support your library because that's like
Yeah.
libraries are like a rental store for gosh darn comics. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
all this warmth we're feeling, we can just get it from the library, and it's all there too. And you
and
should
the
go.
library is still there. Yeah, exactly.
It's still there for now. It's still there for now.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
people they're building like very big libraries now, so I think that
Go to
they
those, enjoy,
yeah.
sit in those, be in a space,
Mhm.
and don't be a bother to people, but
Yeah.
be in a space and be in a community. And I think it's a good way to start a community. Feels like a library.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a real Yonko LLC, the opposite of what Yonko LLC is afraid of is a library. I think the
Yeah.
cure for Yonko LLC is the library.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was part of like what I was getting at also with like the experience, because like there are places like the library or like breweries. I mean, like we've
Mm-hmm.
made fun of breweries, but to be honest, like I mean, I'm glad breweries exist. I mean, like they're I don't when I was in my college days, the only option was like go to a slimy bar,
Yeah.
and
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 like sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. Um, but then the other thing is like, what is that experience worth, not only to you, but to other people? And
Mm-hmm.
there was this thing on, um, I don't know, one of the NPR podcasts that I listened to, like talking about AM radio
Mhm.
and how like people were getting upset because some of the car manufacturers not putting AM radio in their car. I mean, do you listen to AM radio in your car?
I know I listen to FM radio.
Yeah. So I mean, like the majority of people don't, and like they're but people are talking about AM radio the same way that we are, about this. So it's like, okay, this is something that's important to us. And but who is it? Who else is it relevant to?
I'm fascinated by radio though.
Yeah.
I'm so fast, especially because I feel like we have lost something by losing radio
Mhm.
because it was sort of the perfect amount of space to be part of a community.
Mhm.
And the fact that we can't really you can't have like a low oh I'm out. Community, libraries, radio. We'll be back next week. I gotta get going.
All right, peace.
Peace.